What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Tank Chats. I'm here today with the M728 Alpha 1 Combat Engineer vehicle. So without further ado, we're going to hop into the history of this vehicle and we're going to give you guys a tour. Let's jump right in. So, we're looking at one of the big relatives of the M60 here. If you get a shot of the vehicle over there. We did that in the last video. Well, here is its big cousin, or big brother, if you want to call him. The M728 was designed in 1963 along with the designs of the M60's, which is what this design is completely based off of, and they were first put in production in 1965. Alright, so this vehicle's first combat debut, unlike the M60's, these were actually deployed to Vietnam. So this was the variant of the M60, as you can see the similarities from our last video, was actually deployed to Vietnam, and they started phasing them in and deploying them to Vietnam in 1968. They were used for fire support, fob defense, reconnaissance by fire, and simple engineering tasks, which is what this vehicle is mainly meant to do. Combat engineer vehicle. So by the time Vietnam was coming to a close, by about 1973 is when U.S. troops were getting pulled out. These vehicles starting to get pulled out. These vehicles' next operations were during the Cold War. They were sent over to West Germany as basically like border security, kind of like any support vehicles that they would need. And also they were used in the 80s, also during the Cold War, and also during Operation Urgent Fury, which was the invasion of Grenada. 1991, they were sent to the operations in the Gulf War and Desert Storm, which was in 1991, and these were part of the support group that went with the Abrams and the other M60's that were sent over to that area. If you guys are familiar, as I said in the last video, about 73 Easting, 2CR was a part of that. These vehicles were a part of that. They were mainly as meant for support and didn't go too much head-on-head, tank-on-tank combat. But if you probably dig deep in the history books a little bit, you could probably see them knocking out a couple enemy APCs and taking out some infantry fortifications. Because that was what this vehicle was designed to do. It was meant to take out fortifications, basically support any units on them. Right, so after the Gulf War and Desert Storm, these vehicles actually remained in service. The Marines were very stubborn and wanted to hold on to these, and the Army troops held on to them. These were retired from active combat service in the year 2000. But they have still remained in service, and this vehicle is still in the National Guard and U.S. Army Reserve inventory. So these are still a vehicle that is in service with plans to phase it out by 2024. So long history from this vehicle right here. You're looking at a big chunk of history right here. So think about this, from 1965 till 2024. That's how long these babies have been in service. So that's a pretty long time and a pretty good record for this vehicle. So with that, we're gonna hop into the tour of the vehicle. Alright, so hopping right into the tour, you guys. Well, the big obvious thing we got first here is we got a big plow / bulldozer on the front of it, meant for digging in fighting positions and knocking out barriers and barricades, because this was a support vehicle. It was an engineer vehicle, so that's what it was meant to do. You look to the front here, you got big bush guards right here, so these things are massive. Covered by your front headlights right here. They guard your front headlights, your blackout markers for when they're driving at night. Since this tank is so familiar, I wouldn't exactly call this a tank, engineer vehicle, it's so similar to the M60, she actually has the same amount of armor. So the M728-1, which is what this variant would be, because this is an upgraded version, would be 109 millimeters of frontal armor, which is equivalent to 4 inches of steel. On the turret, it was a little bit thicker than the M60's, just by a little bit. So 280 millimeters on the turret, which is about equivalent to almost 10-11 inches of just pure steel. And of course, angled just like the M60, so it could deflect more rounds and support any way you need. You got front fenders over here. This vehicle is not really marked, but that pretty much does it for the front, you guys. We're gonna hop up on top and we're gonna get into the crew positions. Well, the obvious thing you see up here as soon as we go on top of the turret is you got this big baby right here. So this baby is a 165 millimeter gun. which would have 30 rounds. It was meant for indirect fire and fire supports, knocking out bunkers, taking out positions. So it's a big cannon for like heat, high explosive, and stuff like that. Dish out the damage. You look down here, you got your driver's position, just like the M60 had a crew of 4. Your driver, your gunner, your loader, and your commander. Right here, you got a spot for the secondary machine gun, which at this point would actually be the 240 machine gun that they would have put in here. And then over here, this is where your gunner's sight would be. And just like on the M60 that we looked at, she's got the original canvas on it, and she's actually still in pretty good intact, so there's like not really any metal showing through. You got your arm bolt lifting plugs right here for the front, for towing and lifting. And right here, I forgot to mention this in the last video, but this is a mount for an IR scope. So for at night, in like the early years like in Vietnam, they would mount these on there. So with that, we'll hop up into the turret. We'll take a look at some of the other crew positions. All right, so hopping on top of the turret, you guys. Right now we're standing on top of where the gunner would be. He's got his periscope right here. You got the M85 commander's cupola, which just like on the M60, was on its own 360 axis, could rotate and elevate and depress with the 50 cal on the inside. You got your vision port right here, which would actually be for max vision for the commander. And on here, you can actually see the air slot just like on the M60. So it was meant for if the machine gun was being fired from the inside. Where the cameraman's standing right now is where the loader would be. We'll give you guys a shot at it in a second, but she's actually still open, so we might take a look. But, so yeah, as we mentioned earlier, also on the outside of the turret, you have smoke grenade launchers, which are actually a little bit added later. I think they'd be 66 millimeters. They'd be 66 millimeter smoke grenades. They're basically just used for mass covering and all like that. If this vehicle wanted to be a little stealthy, you know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much the turret, you guys. You got the loader's hatch. He's got his commander's. He's got his viewport right there, and the loader as well has got his viewports right here. Coming more to the back, you got what would be the antenna mount, which is actually missing on this one. And you see down the side, this is also where the ammo would be stored. So this could hold 30 rounds of ammo. You got your crane on the back. We'll get more into that when we get to the back of the vehicle. So basically, that's pretty much the turret. We'll hop on off and we'll take a look at the side of the vehicle and then get into the back. All right, so hopping into the side of the vehicle, you guys. Familiar sight. You got the boat-shaped hull here underneath. Torsion bar suspension system. You 6 road wheels. The front road wheel. You got your support rotors right here and bogies. And you got the drive sprocket, which is in the back, just like on the other M60s. You look up here, we got the crane. You see the turret. You got your stowage boxes here. And you also see the smoke grenade launchers on the side, which would actually be activated from inside. And there's not much else to see on the side. Pretty much a little profile of the vehicle right here. And with that, we'll get into the back. All right, so getting into the back, you guys. You got your rear fenders, track links, tow pimp right here, which looks very familiar to what we see today. And you got your blackout markers and your reverse lights here, again for when they're driving at night. You got the Continental engine, which just like with the M60, take off the no fun switch, the speed governor, she could probably do 32 or 35 miles an hour if you wanted to crank it up. 750 horsepower, range of 280 miles, and she held 385 US gallons, so a lot of fuel. She was a hungry girl. But she had towing capacity of 20,000 pounds, which means she could pull some heavy stuff or tow other vehicles or pull down walls, whatever needed to be fulfilled in that engineer room. You also have the crane back here. You can look at how massive that steel cable is. Steel cable had a pulling weight of 18,000 pounds. So she can lift some pretty heavy stuff. You can see her feet all the way into the crane system in the back, which is where your storage for the ammunition and everything would be. So that is the crane system on there. Not much else to look at on the back of the vehicle. Those are the big highlights of it. And with that, we'll get into the close out of this video, you guys. So thank you guys again for tuning in to episode 3 of Tank Chats. The cameraman's laughing at right now. We're actually gonna give a shout out to him too, because your boy Cal is actually on the camera right now from this Saturday's vlog. So shout out to him for coming out here, getting us out here and doing this video. He's kind of amazed by my facts here, so he enjoyed it. And that'll do it for this episode, guys. M728 combat engineer vehicle, still in the U.S. military inventory. We'll see you next time.